There's a song that's been going on in my head from short videos in New York. And I guess it's a royalty-free song, or like it's only 16 seconds of a song. So it's allowed to be used per se. And they always show like Times Square in New York. I'm tired of having to fight people who have blinders on. I haven't seen a lot of police cars lately, so I don't know if people feel like they need to be out. It's going to be incredibly cold tomorrow. Today's the last warm day. I'm even in like layered shorts, kind of like they're like boy shorts under another pair of shorts, so it's almost like wearing bike shorts under a pair of shorts. It's kind of like that. And I do have these little, like, you know, fingerless gloves on, but tomorrow it seems like we might need, you know, warmer, layered up, you know, hats, gloves, the whole 9 yards. Just walking west on Market Street, the north side of the street, and on this way it's around 5-ish. It's like between 4 and 5-ish or so, the normal let-out time-ish, depending on what kind of schedule you have at these places. It's kind of interesting because it's, you know, pretty quiet, I think, considering like how many buildings we have and how many office spaces we have. For years, there were just, the streets would be flooded, like food carts would be like lines all the way around the block for some of these food carts. You don't see that today. So the same population is not here for all those vendors and not to fill all the lunchrooms and, you know, all that, you know, public transit and stuff like that. It's not the same. So the pandemic, I actually have no idea where people went, because it's like after the pandemic they didn't all come back, I guess. Or I don't know if changes were made, if new offices were created in the suburbs for some people. I'm not sure. And I'm not connected enough to know from the typical 9 to 5 crowd. So I'm not part of that world, thankfully, because there's so much anxiety. The only downside is, of course, you want the security and safety of that kind of check and benefits and everything. But I grew up with a lot of anxiety, and every normal job I found, it was more than just like office politics. It was more like on the bizarre side. I do actually feel like I was put on someone's special path, and that's not, I don't, you know, at all feel special at all, because it's like I want to be able to do what normal people do, earn a living and feel safe and secure the way other people do, or in a, you know, gainful employment way. But you know, anyway, it's hard to explain. Like in one case, I worked somewhere where they hired someone whose dad, she said, was a preacher on the USS Cole, which was bombed in the Gulf. My last name is Cole. She's like, oh, my dad was a preacher on the USS Cole. And I didn't, at the time, I kind of believed her. I didn't really think one way or the other, and I didn't think deeply about it, but I did know that she played a lot of games, and she would try to scare people, not just me, like other people, and she would try to make it seem like her role was higher than it was, and she would try to intimidate all the other people. We worked on a magazine, basically. It's a trade publication, and proofs go around before you go to print, and there's a masthead that says like editor-in-chief, you know, senior editor, assistant editor, this, that, and the other. And she tried to make herself out to be like a higher level editor than she was. She was a very specific type of person, a production editor that's quite different from other types of editors. Production editors handle like layout and the gathering of materials. It's more about production than it is about anything else. She tried to make herself out to be a different type of editor. So the galley proofs went around, and she scratched out her title and put in a different title. Now, normally we would be made aware of this. Like there would be a memo like, by the way, you know, congratulations, Sarah, we're gonna give her a promotion, whatever. There was no such information out there. So anyone who would see that galley or proof would start to get all upset. Like, oh, did Sarah get a promotion? And we're not in on this information. We're, you know, we're excluded from whatever went on. Everybody, and it was rightfully so, assumed she got a promotion. So like, oh, they just put her title on there and they didn't tell anybody else. But sure enough, it reached the editor-in-chief's desk, and he came out and kind of laughed to this Sarah person and said, oh, you made yourself a new title, I see. And it's, in a way, it's almost like they had a little bit of an inappropriate relationship as it was, because they kind of acted like a couple, even though he was married, and she would say, oh, did you get that skin, you know, there's a skin patch on your nose, maybe you should go to the doctor, it could be like skin cancer, you might want to get that taken care of. And that's inappropriate, you know what I mean? Like, he has a wife, you don't do that in the office. I'm sure he's an adult, he can do things like that himself, but they had to have a cozy relationship. And that can, you know, that hurts morale, and other people's, like, it messes up the dynamics where you want to just shoot people in the office. So anyway, you know what I mean. I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought this. And some people kowtow to people who seem like they're the boss, seem like they're more like in charge, but it's like a unhealthy in charge, you know what I mean? Someone just appropriates power and makes it seem like, but she's using like sexual wiles to get it. Anyway, he comes around, he says, oh, this is a new title you made up for yourself? And I could hear, because there are partitions that are, you know, they're only like so high, you know, 3.5 feet high. And I was like, oh, she made it up herself. I kind of wondered, but there were a lot of people on pins and needles wondering what was going on with this alleged new title for Miss Sarah. Miss, you know, we have to behave a certain way in order to feel superior to everybody else. So anyway, because of people like her, basically, and because of the dynamics, and even the boss who played into it and was too cutesy, it creates an energy field, and the energy can get really bad. And dynamics that could like go haywire. It's like the madness. You can't escape the madness. Just like I was saying, the vortex and stuff like that. So when people strive for this in office spaces, because it does make people run out of the office with their hands in the air screaming, you know, and looking like, and it's, you know, the thing is, really good people wind up losing or leaving their jobs because of thugs and corrupt people who somehow get hired, or they're hired on purpose by employers who like to create the vortex for some weird reason. It's hard to explain, but I would learn that this does happen a lot. Anyway, you know, what an experience. And Sarah never made it. I wound up leaving, got a major contract, and was able to freelance.